I was hired to tutor her daughter, but the woman who opened that door ended up teaching me what love feels like. I never imagined a part-time tutoring job would change anything in my life. I was just a 24-year-old graduate student trying to make rent, not searching for anything more complicated than a little extra cash. But on that warm Thursday afternoon, everything shifted the moment I rang that doorbell. The house wasn't extravagant. It felt lived-in, cozy, with children's drawings framed on the hallway walls. Before I could take in much more, the door opened, and she stood there. Ms. Alina, 42, though I only learned that later. At first glance, I just noticed her presence. Strong yet soft, like she'd learned to be both protector and nurturer at once. Shoulder-length hair that framed her face in gentle waves. Eyes that looked like they'd once held wild dreams, but had learned to hide them. A quiet kind of beauty that didn't need to announce itself. She greeted me with a polite smile, but I noticed the slight surprise when she realized I was younger than she expected. "You're the tutor?" she asked, tilting her head with a curious look. I nodded, trying to seem more confident than I felt. "Yes, I'm here for Sarah." Her lips lifted again, warmer this time. "Come in. She's just finishing up some homework." She led me to the dining room, her footsteps light, yet the confidence in her posture unmistakable. I followed, trying not to stare, but there was something about her, something quietly magnetic. Sarah, her daughter, was bright and funny. Working with her was easy. She asked questions freely and wasn't afraid to admit when she didn't understand something. As we reviewed math problems, I could occasionally feel Alina's gaze from the kitchen, checking on us while preparing tea. There was comfort in that presence, like sunlight warming a room without ever calling attention to itself. At one point, she came over with a plate of biscuits and 2 glasses of water. When she placed one beside me, her fingertips brushed mine. Lightly, accidentally. Or maybe not accidentally. It was impossible to tell. The touch was nothing inappropriate, just a second too long, a warmth too noticeable. But my heart reacted before my mind could rationalize it. "Thank you," I managed, my voice embarrassingly soft. "You're welcome," she replied, and for a moment her eyes held mine. Not searching, not intimidating, just seeing me. When the session ended, Sarah rushed off to watch her favorite show. I began packing up but felt a small hesitation in my hands. Alina stepped closer, arms crossed loosely, leaning against the doorway. "She seems comfortable with you," she said. "It's not always easy getting her focused." I smiled. "She's a smart kid. She just needs patience." That earned me a look. A long one. Not flirtatious. Just thoughtful, as if those words meant something deeper to her. As I reached for my bag, she gently handed me the glass I'd forgotten. Our fingers touched again, deliberate this time. Her expression softened in a way that told me she hadn't expected someone like me to walk into her life today either. "See you next week?" she asked. I nodded, and as I stepped out the door, I realized something. This wasn't just another tutoring job. Something had shifted. Small, quiet, and impossible to ignore, and I couldn't wait to see where it led. Over the next few weeks, tutoring at their house became the best part of my routine. I told myself it was because Sarah was a good student, because the job was easy, because the pay helped keep my life from falling apart. All true, but none of those were the reason I checked my watch impatiently before every session, hoping time would hurry up. It was her, Alina. Every visit revealed a piece of her world I hadn't noticed before. A shelf lined with travel souvenirs, a miniature Eiffel Tower, a wooden elephant from Thailand, hints of adventures she once took, a stack of unfinished novels on her nightstand visible through a slightly open door, like dreams waiting patiently for her return. She was always nearby, always present, but never intrusive. Often she'd pass by the table, pausing to listen to Sarah explain a problem or laugh at one of her jokes. Sometimes she'd lean down to point something out, one hand resting lightly against the back of my chair, close enough that the warmth of her body reached me before her words did. And every time, I felt that warmth linger long after she stepped away. One afternoon, after Sarah finished early, Alina brought over a fresh pot of mint tea. She poured it for me first, a gentle gesture that felt caring, intentional. "You're good with her," she said, sitting across from me rather than slipping away to the kitchen like she usually did. "She rarely concentrates this well." I shrugged, suddenly more nervous under her direct attention. "She just needs someone to believe she can do it." Alina nodded, her expression softening with a gratitude deeper than simple appreciation. "Belief is a powerful thing, hard to come by." Her fingers traced the rim of her mug, a subtle sign of nerves she probably thought I wouldn't notice. I wanted to say something, anything, that would unravel the quiet sadness behind her words. Instead, I simply watched her, realizing I wanted to understand everything she'd been forced to hide. We talked longer than we should have. Not about school, about life. She told me she used to write in journals every night but hadn't touched one in years. About the plants she kept alive on the balcony because they were the only things in her life that didn't depend on her. About how silence in the house after a divorce feels louder than any argument ever did. I shared pieces of myself too. My fears about the future, my struggle to feel like I'm on the right path. She listened the way no one else did, not waiting to speak, but actually hearing. Our tea grew cold before either of us noticed. And then there was that moment, small but unforgettable. I reached for my notebook at the same time she reached to take the cups. Our hands touched. Not a fleeting brush this time, a gentle press of skin against skin. We both froze. Her eyes lifted to mine, brown, deep, and silently asking a question neither of us dared to put into words. It lasted only a heartbeat, but one heartbeat was enough to convince me. This connection, whatever it was, wasn't imagined. A few weeks later, I arrived for our session just as the rain began. A steady, calming sound against the roof. The sky was gray, the air cool, and by the time I stepped inside, I was shaking droplets from my hair like a wet puppy. Sarah grinned and rushed off to get towels, leaving me alone in the entryway with Alina. She laughed softly as she reached up, gently brushing a raindrop from my cheek with her fingertip. "You'll catch a cold coming in like that," she murmured. The touch was light, but enough to warm far more than my skin. After the lesson, Sarah left for a sleepover. Alina had mentioned it casually earlier, but I'd forgotten. When the door closed behind her daughter, the house suddenly felt quiet. Too quiet. "Do you have to rush anywhere?" she asked, eyes hopeful but cautious. I shook my head. "Not at all." "Then stay a little longer. I'll make us some tea." I followed her into the kitchen, warm, golden light reflecting off rain-spattered windows. The storm outside made the moment feel sealed off from the rest of the world. She took her time preparing everything. Mint leaves, honey, a squeeze of lemon. Like a ritual of comfort she rarely performed for anyone else. We sat at the kitchen island, both slowly sipping. The heat of the cup soothed my hands, but the presence across from me kept my heart unsteady. She sighed. Not dramatically, just a quiet release, the kind people do when they've been holding too much inside. "You and Sarah, you work well together," she said, playing with her bracelet. "You've helped her believe in herself again. I can't thank you enough." "She's the one doing the work," I replied. "She just needed someone to remind her she's capable." Alina stared down at her tea. "I try, but some days I feel like I'm failing at everything. Patience, balance, being enough." Her vulnerability hit me harder than I expected. She always seemed so composed, so steady. Seeing the cracks felt like being trusted with something precious. "You're more than enough," I said quietly. She looked up, and in her eyes, I saw a woman who hadn't heard those words from someone who truly meant them in a long time. There was a pause, not awkward, just full. She reached for her mug at the same moment I did, trying to refill it. Our hands collided, fingers curling instinctively, neither of us pulling away. The warmth of her skin was grounding, reassuring, and electric all at once. "I'm sorry," she whispered, though her hand still rested on mine. "Don't be," I replied, and I meant every syllable. Her gaze softened, full of a silent gratitude and something far more dangerous. Hope. Outside, lightning flashed, illuminating the room for a brief moment. But inside, neither of us flinched. We held hands for only a few seconds. Yet in those seconds, walls lowered, fears loosened, and something real claimed space between us. Something neither of us had planned for. Something neither of us was ready to name. The following week, a scheduling mix-up changed everything. I arrived half an hour early, assuming our normal time. When I knocked, there was no immediate answer, just the muffled sound of a vacuum cleaner. Eventually, the door swung open and there stood Alina, surprised, a little breathless, and completely unfiltered. Her hair was loosely tied up, a few strands falling around her face. She wore a soft, oversized t-shirt and leggings, the kind of outfit someone wears only when they feel safe at home. She blinked at me, a small flush rising in her cheeks as she wiped her hands nervously on her clothes. "You're early," she laughed, slightly embarrassed but too tired to hide it. "And you're cleaning?" I teased lightly. "Trying to," she said, rolling her eyes as if the house had personally offended her. She looked real, not the perfectly put-together version she showed to the world. This was a glimpse behind her defenses, domestic, comfortable, beautiful in a way that caught me completely off guard. Sarah was still on her way home from school, so she invited me in to wait. I sat on the couch while she finished tidying up the living room. She apologized for the mess, though I saw nothing worth apologizing for. Just signs of life, laughter, memory. "Do you want to watch something while we wait?" she asked, holding a remote like it was a peace offering. "Sure," I said. My heart probably answered before my mouth did. We landed on a light-hearted movie. One of those comforting old favorites where the jokes are predictable but still make you smile. At first we sat a safe distance apart. But little by little, without either of us acknowledging it, the gap closed. Her leg gently brushed mine. Her arm rested near mine on the couch. Her laughter, soft and carefree, warmed the air around us. At one point she leaned in to comment on a scene, and I turned my head just as she did. For a moment we were inches apart, close enough to feel the shared breath between us. The world seemed to still. Her eyes flickered to my mouth for the faintest second. Not longing, just recognition. That something was different now. She pulled back slightly, but not far. Her voice was quieter when she spoke again. "You're easy to be around," she admitted, eyes focused ahead like she was afraid to see my reaction. "It's been a long time since I've felt at ease with someone." My chest tightened, not with pride, but with something gentler. A desire to keep that ease alive, to protect the softness she was finally allowing herself to show. "I like being here," I said. Simple truth. No expectations. She smiled. A small, grateful one that showed how rare that honesty was for her. But even as we sat close, sharing silence that felt like its own kind of conversation, I couldn't ignore the thought echoing in the back of my mind. I'm her daughter's tutor. I can't let myself feel this much. Yet every moment with her only pulled me deeper into something undeniable, a connection forming faster than either of us could control. And as the front door finally opened and Sarah's voice filled the house, I knew one thing for certain. My heart was already involved, whether it should be or not. The sky darkened earlier than usual that evening. Heavy clouds stretched across the horizon, and the air smelled like rain again. But this time, the storm felt personal. Sarah had already gone to bed after a long study session. I stayed to finish cleaning up the books on the table, reluctant to leave even though the hour was late. Just as I slipped my shoes back on, thunder rumbled in the distance and the lights flickered once, twice, then went completely out. Alina gasped softly from the kitchen. "Oh no!" I knew the power company was warning us, but I didn't think it would actually go out. Her voice sounded small in the sudden darkness. I could barely see her silhouette. "Wait here," she said, her footsteps careful against the hardwood floor. "I'll find candles." I used my phone's flashlight to guide her until she opened a drawer and pulled out a few candles. Slim, ivory ones, the kind meant for peaceful nights, not emergencies. She lit them slowly, the warm glow rising to chase away the shadows. The candlelight softened everything. The room, the silence, even her worries. It painted gold along her cheekbones and reflected in her eyes like tiny sparks. "You can stay until the storm passes," she said. "I'd feel better if you did." I nodded, the unspoken truth hanging between us. Neither of us wanted me to go. A cold breeze slipped in from a cracked window. She shivered lightly, crossing her arms as though she'd only then noticed the chill. "Here," I said, shrugging off my hoodie and holding it out. She hesitated, not because she didn't want it, but because accepting felt like an admission. Then she took it, slipping the soft fabric over her shoulders. When her hands brushed mine, everything inside me stilled. "It smells like you," she murmured before catching herself. Her cheeks flushed as she looked down, letting the hoodie swallow her figure. We sat together on the couch, closer than we ever had before. The storm outside faded into background noise, a steady rhythm that matched the quiet thunder in my chest. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Why does this feel so easy when it shouldn't?" She wasn't asking me. She was confessing. Without thinking, I reached out, gently placing my hand over hers. Not pulling her in, just letting her know I was there. She turned her palm upward, slowly intertwining her fingers with mine. A simple gesture, powerful choice. Then it happened. Not a kiss, not anything reckless, but a hug. She leaned into me, cautiously at first, until she felt my arms wrap around her in return, steady and sure. Her head rested against my shoulder, her breath soft against my neck. In that quiet, candlelit embrace, everything we'd been holding back finally exhaled. No words, no labels, just two people who needed comfort and found it in each other. She whispered into the fabric of my shirt, "This shouldn't feel this right." I swallowed hard, because the truth had never been clearer. "I know," I said, "but it does." Outside, the storm continued. Inside, something new took root, fragile but real, and neither of us made any move to let go. The storm had passed by morning, but inside the house, the air still felt charged. When I arrived for the next session, I expected to see the same warmth, the same quiet understanding we'd shared in the candlelight. But the moment Alina opened the door, I knew something had changed. She greeted me with a polite smile, the kind someone puts on like a coat, trying to hide what's underneath. Her posture was careful, her eyes guarded. The hoodie I'd loaned her was folded neatly on the console table beside the door. "Thank you for this," she said, handing it back to me without letting our fingers touch. Her voice was gentle but careful, as though she feared one wrong note might crack everything open again. Sarah rushed over happily, oblivious to the tension. "Guess what? I got an A on my quiz," she exclaimed. Her excitement was genuine, and seeing her so proud made my heart lift, until she added with a smug little smile, "Mom says you're the reason she's smiling more lately." The room froze for a split second. Alina's eyes widened, and the warmth drained from her face. She forced a laugh, brushing off the comment like scattered crumbs. "Kids say the silliest things," she muttered, but her shakiness betrayed her. We moved into the study session, but the ease was gone. She checked her watch too often. Her footsteps sounded quicker, like she wanted to be anywhere else. Even the air around her seemed to hold its breath. When Sarah left to grab a notebook, the silence that settled between us felt impossible. "About the other night," she began, gripping the back of a chair so tightly her knuckles whitened. "We got caught up in a moment, but it can't happen again." I swallowed hard. "I know it's complicated. It's more than complicated." Her voice strained, full of fear rather than anger. "I have my daughter to think about. People talk. They judge. And I can't let myself make another mistake." Mistake. The word hit like a punch. She finally met my eyes, and that was the hardest part, because everything she felt was still there. The softness, the longing, the fear of wanting something she believed she shouldn't. "I'm grateful for what you're doing for her," she continued, "but we need to stay professional." I nodded because I respected her. I always would. But every fiber in my body resisted the distance she was trying to rebuild. "I don't want to make things harder for you," I said, Just tell me how to make this easier. Her voice cracked as she whispered, just act like nothing happened. But her eyes begged for the opposite. When the lesson ended, I packed up slowly, hoping she might say something, anything, to soften the goodbye. Instead, she walked me to the door with a careful step of separation. Thank you, she said simply, the words trembling with everything unsaid. I stepped outside. The air was crisp. The world felt unfairly normal. The door closed gently behind me, but the echo felt like it might never stop. In one night, we had found something real, and now we were pretending it didn't exist. Weeks passed. The spark between us didn't disappear. It simply hid beneath polite distance and careful smiles. Sarah's grades climbed higher than anyone expected. Her confidence grew too. The improvement was undeniable, and eventually, it was time to celebrate her hard work. Alina invited me to join them for a small dinner. Nothing fancy, just a meal to mark progress and new beginnings. I almost declined, afraid that being near her would hurt more than staying away. But I said yes, because leaving things unfinished scared me even more. When I arrived, the house looked different. Maybe it was the warm lights glowing from every lamp, or the aroma of homemade pasta filling the air. Maybe it was the soft excitement in Sarah's voice, as she told me all about the next goals she wanted to reach. Or maybe it was Alina, wearing a simple dress, tucked hair, and a nervous smile she tried to hide by keeping busy at the stove. Dinner was filled with laughter. For the first time since that night, the tension loosened, not gone but no longer sharp. More like a quiet thread connecting us beneath the table. After the meal, Sarah retreated to her room to video chat with a friend, leaving Alina and me alone with the dishes. She washed, I dried, working beside each other in an easy rhythm, the kind that forms only when two people feel comfortable together. When the last plate was put away, silence settled. A gentle one. She wiped her hands on a towel and looked toward the balcony. Do you have a minute? She asked. I did. I would always have a minute for her. The night air was cool when we stepped outside. City lights shimmered from a distance, and the soft noise of life buzzed below us. But up there, it felt like we were suspended above everything else. She leaned on the railing, eyes on the horizon as though searching for courage. I've been afraid, she admitted quietly, of what people would say, of messing up again, of letting myself want something I shouldn't. I understand, I said, and I did deeply. She turned toward me, vulnerability clear in the soft lines around her eyes. But I realized something. You've brought a kind of peace back into this home. You've helped her. And you've helped me, more than I've known how to say. Her hand rested near mine on the railing, so close that it almost hurt not to hold it. I'm not asking for promises, she continued. I just don't want to pretend anymore. I reached out slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. Our fingers intertwined, gentle and sure. This time there was no panic. No guilt, only relief. We can take this slowly, I said. One step at a time. Nothing rushed. Nothing hidden from ourselves. Her breath shook. A half laugh, half exhale of pent-up hope. I'd like that, she whispered. We stood there, hand in hand, hearts steadier than they'd been in months. Two people choosing to explore a fragile, unfamiliar happiness without fear guiding the way. No grand declarations. No dramatic endings. Just a beginning quietly powerful. Because sometimes love doesn't arrive like lightning. Sometimes it grows gently until you can no longer imagine your life without the light it brings. If this story touched your heart, please like the video and subscribe for more slow burn romance. And don't forget to comment below. Should their love continue to grow?